Have you ever felt like someone in your life wasn't just upset with you, but actively trying to tear you down? It's an unsettling feeling, one that makes you question their intentions and your own place in the relationship. Hate is one thing, but there's something far more dangerous that can lurk behind a toxic relationship: the desire to destroy. At first, it might seem like simple resentment or jealousy, but when you pay closer attention, the signs become harder to ignore. Whether it's passive-aggressive behavior, constant undermining, or even sabotaging your success, there's a subtle but powerful shift when someone moves from hating to actively wanting to see you fail. This isn't just a matter of conflict, it's about control. Someone who wants to destroy you is often threatened by your success, your happiness, or your ability to move forward. They see your growth as a direct challenge to their own insecurities, and instead of confronting those feelings, they try to pull you down to their level. The signs are there, hidden in plain sight, if you know where to look. Pay attention to how they react when you succeed, how they behave when you're vulnerable, and what they do when you're at your lowest. If you recognize these signs, it's time to reassess your relationship with them and take action before they can do any more damage. Have you ever felt this way about someone? Share your experiences, and let's talk about how to protect yourself from toxic people who want to destroy your peace. Let's begin. 1. The silent observer. When someone studies you like a prey. It starts small, a glance held a second too long, a familiar face appearing too often in places you frequent, someone who always seems to know things about you that you never shared. At first it feels like nothing, coincidence, but deep down, something feels off. You tell yourself you're overthinking it, but the pattern repeats, and soon the truth becomes impossible to ignore. This isn't random. This is someone watching, listening, collecting, not out of admiration, but with intention. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one who openly despises you. It's the one who remains silent, the one who waits. A predator that roars before it strikes gives its prey a chance to run. The most lethal threats don't announce themselves. They blend in, observing from the shadows, learning your patterns, understanding your weaknesses. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's often too late. The silent observer doesn't need to attack you directly. They don't need to threaten or challenge you. All they need is information. And the more they know, the more dangerous they become. Michael was a man who thought he had everything under control, a sharp businessman, always ahead of the curve, always anticipating moves before they happened. But he never saw Ryan coming. Ryan was just another colleague, quiet, polite, seemingly eager to learn. Michael appreciated his curiosity. He even admired it. He was the kind of person who took mentorship seriously, who believed in helping others grow. So when Ryan asked about leadership, about success, about the struggles of running a business, Michael saw no harm in sharing. But then, little things started happening. Conversations Michael had in private began surfacing in meetings he wasn't a part of. Competitors seemed to be acting preemptively, undercutting his decisions before they were even finalized. And one evening, sitting at his favorite corner table in a cafe he had been visiting for years, he looked up and saw Ryan a few seats away, watching. Their eyes met and Ryan smiled. That's when it clicked. Ryan wasn't just a junior employee eager to learn. He had been studying Michael, learning his habits, his routines, his vulnerabilities. And not as an ally but as someone waiting for the perfect moment to step in and take everything. The pieces fell into place too late. The deals that had collapsed, the investors that had pulled out, the sudden shift in power. Ryan had positioned himself exactly where he needed to be. Michael had unknowingly handed him the keys to his own downfall. This is how it happens. It's rarely loud. It's never obvious. The silent observer operates through patience, through subtlety. They don't move impulsively. They wait. And when the opportunity is right, they strike with precision. People like this aren't driven by temporary anger or emotion. Their game is longer, more deliberate. And because they don't behave like traditional enemies, most people never recognize them as threats. That's what makes them dangerous. So how do you know if someone is watching you? It won't always be obvious, but there are patterns. They appear in your life more often than they should. Not just at work, but in casual spaces, in passing conversations, in moments where they have no reason to be there. They know details about you that you never explicitly shared, your routines, your habits, even personal struggles. They position themselves in ways that seem coincidental at first, but over time, the presence becomes too consistent to ignore. Some might call this paranoia, but is it really? In a world where information is power, being cautious is not paranoia, it's survival. People who seek control don't always do it through force. Sometimes, all they need is knowledge. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to manipulate. If someone is always where you are, always listening but rarely revealing much about themselves, always inserting themselves into conversations that don't concern them, take notice. The mistake many people make is assuming that only loud, aggressive threats are dangerous. But history has shown that the most calculated moves come from those who remain silent. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you allow yourself to be constantly exposed, to be observed without questioning why, you are giving others the ability to shape your reality without you even realizing it. You cannot control what others do, but you can control what they see. A Stoic does not broadcast his every move. He does not seek validation through constant exposure. He remains measured, strategic, composed. Do not be an open book to those who have not earned the right to read you. The most powerful man in the room is not the loudest. It is the one who speaks with intention, the one who knows when to stay silent. What can you do if you suspect someone is watching you? First, stop sharing so much. Not everyone needs access to your thoughts, your struggles, your ambitions. Be mindful of how much you reveal, because once something is spoken, it cannot be taken back. Second, start watching who watches you. The silent observer thrives on the assumption that you are unaware. But once you recognize the pattern, once you start seeing through their tactics, their power diminishes. Third, never react emotionally. These people wait for missteps, for outbursts, for moments of weakness. The best way to counter them is with unwavering composure. Think about your own life. Who always seems to be there? Who knows things they shouldn't? Who listens more than they speak, taking in every detail while revealing nothing about themselves? If someone just came to mind, trust that instinct. The greatest mistake you can make is assuming that no one is paying attention. The world is full of watchers, of people who seek opportunities where others see nothing. This is not fear, this is awareness. The more unpredictable you are, the harder you are to control. The more disciplined you are in what you reveal, the less vulnerable you become. In the end, a predictable man is a vulnerable man. A Stoic man? He controls his presence, his words, his actions, and most importantly, his silence. 2. The whispered poison. How they destroy your reputation. It doesn't happen overnight. It begins as a whisper, soft, subtle, almost harmless. A casual remark, a passing comment, something so small that no one questions it. But then it spreads. What was once an innocent observation becomes a well-placed suggestion. A suggestion turns into speculation. Speculation hardens into belief. And before you know it, your reputation, the foundation of how others see you, begins to crack. The most dangerous attacks are the ones you don't see coming. A direct insult, an open confrontation, those you can fight. But the whispered poison? It moves through shadows. It infects people's minds before you even realize you've been targeted. And by the time the damage is done, the world has already made up its mind about you. David had spent years building his reputation at his company. He was respected, valued, someone people turned to for advice. But then something changed. His colleagues grew distant. Conversations stopped when he entered the room. Invitations to meetings became rare. At first, he thought he was imagining it. But then he noticed the looks, the subtle shifts in tone, the forced politeness. It was as if people saw him differently, as if they knew something about him that he didn't. Then he overheard a conversation. 2 co-workers speaking in hushed voices, mentioning his name. The words were vague, nothing direct, nothing he could challenge. But it was enough. He confronted them, demanded to know what was being said. Their response? A shrug. "I don't know, man. People are just talking." And that's the trick. No one ever takes full responsibility for the poison. No one ever admits to starting it, because it doesn't need a source. It only needs repetition. A well-placed rumor doesn't need to be proven true. It only needs to be believed. This is how they destroy you. No direct attack, no confrontation, just the slow erosion of trust, the steady dismantling of your credibility, one conversation at a time. Why do people do this? The reasons vary. Jealousy, insecurity, the need to feel powerful by controlling how others see you. But the result is always the same: isolation. Once people believe the whispers, they distance themselves. They stop trusting you, even if they can't explain why. A 2019 study on workplace manipulation found that 72% of people who were targeted by office gossip experienced a decline in professional opportunities, not because of their performance, but because of perception. In social circles, this effect is even stronger. People tend to believe what they hear repeatedly, regardless of whether it's true. The more a lie is whispered, the more it feels like reality. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth." And that is the hardest part of dealing with whispered poison. Truth does not always win. So how do you fight an enemy you can't see? How do you defend yourself against words that are never spoken to your face? First, you must accept that you cannot control what others say. Fighting every rumor, chasing every lie, it will drain you. And worse, it will make you look guilty. That's the trap. They want you to react, to become defensive, to act out in frustration. Because the more you fight back, the more it looks like you have something to hide. Second, let your actions speak louder than their words. A Stoic does not defend himself with explanations. He defends himself with character. Live in such a way that no one will believe the lies. The people who matter, the ones who truly know you, will not be swayed by whispers. And those who are, they were never on your side to begin with. Third, identify the source. The poison does not spread on its own. Someone is feeding it. There is always one person, one voice who plants the seed. Watch for them. The person who suddenly becomes too interested in your mistakes. The one who always seems to know what others are saying about you. The one who comforts you while secretly making sure the fire keeps burning. They are the architect of your downfall. And when you find them, do not seek revenge. Do not lower yourself to their level. Simply cut them off. Deny them access to your life. The less they know, the less power they have. A man who thrives on deception cannot survive when there is nothing left for him to twist. Think about your own life. Have you ever felt the shift? The change in the way people look at you? The moment when respect turned into suspicion, when admiration became avoidance? If so, ask yourself, where did it start? Because it did not start on its own. Someone planted the seed. And now you have a choice. You can spend your energy fighting ghosts, chasing rumors, trying to undo what's already been done, or you can rise above it. You can move forward with clarity, with composure, knowing that your reputation is not built on their words, but on your actions. In the end, a Stoic knows this. Reputation is fragile, but character is unbreakable. The world will talk. Let it. Just make sure that when all the noise fades, the truth remains standing. 3. The friendly betrayal. When a friend is your worst enemy. James had always been careful about who he let into his life. He wasn't the kind to trust easily. But Daniel was different. He wasn't just a colleague. He was a friend. The kind who always had his back, always seemed to know what to say when things got tough. They had shared late-night talks about business, about relationships, about life. And then one day, James lost everything. It started with small things. A project he had been leading suddenly got reassigned. A client he had been negotiating with mysteriously pulled out. At first, he thought it was bad luck. Then he noticed Daniel's name appearing in conversations where it didn't belong. Daniel had slowly positioned himself in James's place, using every detail James had shared, every moment of vulnerability, to take what he wanted without ever throwing a single punch. James never saw it coming. That was the worst part. Because when an enemy betrays you, you expect it. But when it's a friend, it doesn't just hurt. It rewrites everything you thought you knew. Betrayal rarely comes from strangers. The deeper the trust, the sharper the knife. It happens in boardrooms, it happens in friendships, it happens in relationships. And the reason it's so devastating is simple. You never expect it. A true enemy doesn't need to attack you directly. They just need to get close enough. Close enough to hear your plans. Close enough to know your weaknesses. Close enough to strike when you least expect it. And they always come disguised as a friend. A 2021 psychological study on workplace betrayal found that over 65% of career sabotage cases involved someone the victim trusted. Not a competitor, not a known rival, but a colleague, a business partner, or a so-called friend. That's the first thing you need to understand about friendly betrayal. It's never loud. It doesn't come with a declaration of war. It comes in quiet conversations, in small moments of manipulation, in stolen trust. So how do you recognize it before it's too late? First, watch for people who rush trust. Real friendships, real partnerships, they take time. But a false friend? They want access to your world immediately. They want to know your struggles, your ambitions, your weaknesses, long before they've earned the right to. They present themselves as the most supportive person in your life. They make you feel safe, and the moment you start confiding in them, you've already given them the power they need. Second, notice how they react to your success. A real friend celebrates with you. A fake one? They'll smile, but something in their eyes will change. They might downplay your achievements, make sarcastic remarks, or subtly remind you of past failures. Their words will be supportive, but their energy will betray them. Third, pay attention to the little betrayals before the big one. The friend who shares something private about you in passing. The colleague who takes credit for a small idea just once. The partner who tells you they have your back, but their actions say otherwise. Betrayal is rarely a single event. It's a pattern. And if you look closely, the signs are always there. Seneca once said, "Associate with those who make you a better man and avoid those who pretend to." A Stoic does not place blind trust in others. He observes, he listens, and most importantly, he does not mistake kindness for loyalty. You cannot control who betrays you, but you can control how much access you give them. So take a moment. Think about the people in your life. Who has rushed to earn your trust? Who always seems to be around when you're at your lowest, but distant when you're at your best? Who knows just a little too much about you? Because the truth is, the most dangerous enemy isn't the one standing against you. It's the one standing beside you, waiting. For the provocation game, how they test your limits. It always starts small, a joke that doesn't feel like a joke, a comment that lingers in your mind long after it's said, a subtle push, a minor inconvenience, an accidental insult. At first, you let it slide. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. Maybe you're overthinking, so you ignore it. But then, it happens again. The words become sharper, the behavior grows bolder. They cut deeper, push harder. Each time, it's just enough to make you uncomfortable, but never enough for you to call it out without seeming sensitive or irrational. And that's the trick. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is a game. A deliberate, calculated strategy to test your reaction, to find the edge of your patience, to see how far they can push before you break. People who operate this way are not reckless. They don't throw punches without reason. Instead, they escalate in steps, watching how you respond at each stage. Their goal is to provoke a reaction, one that will ultimately work against you. If you stay silent, they push further. If you react emotionally, they use it against you. Either way, they win. Thomas never thought much of Eric's jokes at work. They were offhand comments, laced with sarcasm, nothing serious. But over time, they became more personal. A slight about his work ethic, a jab at his competence, a laugh at his expense during meetings. The first few times, Thomas brushed it off. He didn't want to seem petty, he didn't want to cause unnecessary drama, so he swallowed it. But Eric saw that hesitation, and he took it as permission. One day, in front of the entire team, Eric made a comment about Thomas being unreliable. The room fell silent for a moment, eyes shifting toward Thomas, waiting for his reaction. This was the moment. If Thomas exploded, he'd look unprofessional. If he stayed quiet, it would confirm the accusation. Either way, Eric had trapped him. This is what they do. They chip away at you, little by little, until they force you into a corner. And then, they make you choose how you fall. A 2020 study on workplace manipulation found that 81% of professional conflicts are not caused by direct confrontations, but by a slow buildup of passive-aggressive behaviors. In friendships and relationships, the same pattern exists. Small provocations, minor transgressions, each one designed to test the waters. A toxic friend will make cutting remarks and then follow up with, "I was just joking. You take things too seriously." A manipulative colleague will undermine you in front of others and then say, "Relax, I didn't mean anything by it." A controlling partner will push your boundaries and then guilt trip you into believing you're the problem. And each time, if you let it slide, they push further. Seneca once said, "He who controls his emotions controls his fate." These people want a reaction. They feed off emotional responses. They are not interested in resolution. They are interested in control. So how do you deal with them? First, recognize the pattern. This is not about a single incident. This is about consistency. If someone repeatedly makes you feel uncomfortable, undermined, or disrespected, it is not a coincidence. Second, do not react emotionally. That is their weapon, their goal. The moment you lash out, you validate their game. They will call you sensitive, unstable, difficult. But if you remain calm, composed, unshaken, they lose power. Because nothing frustrates a manipulator more than someone who refuses to play along. Third, set clear boundaries. A Stoic does not tolerate disrespect, not because he is aggressive, but because he understands his value. The moment you allow someone to dictate how you feel, how you respond, how you see yourself, you have given them control. And control is something you must never surrender. If you've ever felt this, if someone in your life has been testing you, pushing you, seeing how much they can get away with, pay attention. Their actions are not harmless. Their words are not accidents. This is not about paranoia. This is about clarity, about knowing when someone is trying to break you piece by piece until you become exactly what they want you to be. And once you see the game for what it is, you have only one choice: refuse to play. 5. The patient enemy, when they wait years to destroy you. Have you ever trusted someone for years only to realize too late that they were never truly on your side? Have you ever looked back on a betrayal and thought, this wasn't sudden, this was planned? Some enemies don't strike in anger. They don't lash out in the heat of the moment. Instead, they wait, they watch, they calculate, and when the time is right, when you are at your weakest, that's when they make their move. Not every enemy wants an immediate victory. Some want something greater, a complete, irreversible downfall. And for that, patience is their weapon. They play the long game, ensuring that when they strike, you have nowhere to run, no defenses left to protect yourself. They let you believe they are a friend, an ally, someone who supports you. And then, when you need them most, they pull the ground from beneath you. Robert had always prided himself on his ability to judge character. He had built his business from nothing, surrounding himself with people he trusted. And among them was Ethan, a partner who had been with him from the beginning. Ethan was dependable, reliable, always there when things got tough. For over a decade, Robert believed they were building something great together. But Ethan wasn't just watching the business grow. He was watching Robert, studying him, learning everything about his strengths, his weaknesses, his vulnerabilities. It wasn't until Robert's company faced a financial crisis that he saw the truth. Investors pulled out, clients hesitated, and right when he needed stability, Ethan made his move. He convinced the board that Robert was no longer fit to lead. He spread doubt, planted questions, positioned himself as the logical choice to take control. And just like that, Robert lost everything. Not to an outsider, not to a competitor, but to the man who had stood beside him for years. This is the terrifying reality of a patient enemy. They don't rush. They don't make reckless mistakes. They let you build. They let you trust. They let you depend on them. And then when the moment is right, they take everything. So how do you recognize them before it's too late? First, understand the pattern of the patient enemy. They are always present, but never fully exposed. They are supportive, but never too supportive. They gain your trust not through big gestures, but through consistency. They make themselves indispensable, ensuring that when the time comes, their betrayal will be the most devastating. Second, look for subtle control. A patient enemy is not in a rush to take power. Instead, they position themselves as someone you rely on. They slowly become the one who knows the most about your life, your work, your plans. They don't just wait for your weakness, they help create it. They encourage decisions that put you in vulnerable positions. They push you into risks that make you dependent on them. Third, observe their reaction to your setbacks. A real friend, a true ally, will feel your struggles as if they were their own. But a patient enemy? They will be too calm when things go wrong, too rational. They won't offer solutions. They will offer themselves as the solution. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. A man who surrounds himself with false allies is painting his own ruin." A Stoic does not wait for betrayal. He anticipates it. He prepares for it. He understands that not all enemies announce themselves. Some arrive as friends and only reveal their true nature when the moment is right. So how do you defend yourself? First, never be fully dependent on one person. No matter how much you trust them, keep control over your own life, your own finances, your own decisions. Second, watch for patterns, not just actions. A single betrayal can be forgiven. A habit of manipulation cannot. Third, trust your instincts. If something feels too perfect, too controlled, too orchestrated, it probably is. Think about your life. Is there someone who has been standing beside you for years, but something feels off? Someone who always seems to benefit when things go wrong for you? Someone who has positioned themselves as too necessary, too integrated into your world? If so, be careful. Because when they finally make their move, it won't just be an attack. It will be the final step in a plan they started years ago. 6. The fake helper. When advice is a trap. There are people who disguise their attacks as assistance. They don't argue with you. They don't openly oppose you. Instead, they offer guidance, suggestions, support. They position themselves as someone who wants the best for you, someone with wisdom, someone you should trust, and that is how they control you. A fake helper is more dangerous than an enemy because they don't push against you. They pull you in. Their advice sounds reasonable, logical, like they truly care. But underneath it is a different purpose. They aren't guiding you toward success. They are leading you toward failure, one step at a time. Andrew was ambitious, intelligent, and determined to build something great. He had big plans, but he also had doubts. That's when his mentor stepped in, an older, experienced businessman who had been through it all. Every time Andrew hesitated, his mentor had advice. Every time Andrew faced a tough decision, his mentor had an answer. But something wasn't right. The advice always seemed to slow him down, never push him forward. There was always a warning, always a reason to wait, to be cautious, to rethink. And the more Andrew listened, the less progress he made. By the time he realized what was happening, it was too late. His competition had moved ahead, opportunities had passed, and his mentor, he had positioned himself exactly where Andrew had once been, taking the opportunities Andrew had been too hesitant to act on. This is how it works. The fake helper does not tell you to stop. They simply plant doubt, delay, hesitation. They make you question yourself just enough that you hesitate, and in that hesitation, you lose ground. They don't destroy you in one move. They weaken you over time. Their words seem harmless, even caring. Are you sure this is the right time? Maybe you should wait until you have more experience. I just don't want to see you get hurt. But behind every word is an agenda. They want to keep you uncertain, hesitant, reliant on their guidance. They want to make sure that while you're second-guessing yourself, they are moving forward. A Stoic does not fall for this. A Stoic knows that true guidance empowers, not restricts. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste time arguing about what a good man should be one." A real mentor, a real supporter, will not encourage hesitation. They will not keep you dependent on their advice. They will push you to act, to take responsibility, to move forward with clarity and confidence. So how do you recognize a fake helper before it's too late? Pay attention to how their advice makes you feel. Do you feel empowered? Or do you feel smaller, less certain, more hesitant? A real guide will give you confidence, not confusion. Second, look at their actions, not just their words. Do they take bold steps in their own life? Or do they always seem to be holding others back while keeping themselves in motion? And third, watch for the pattern. A single warning, a single moment of caution, that's normal. But when someone constantly slows you down, always makes you question your own judgment, always inserts themselves between you and your goals, you are not being helped, you are being controlled. Think about your own life. Has there been someone whose advice has kept you in place rather than helped you move forward? Someone who always seems to have a reason why you shouldn't take action? Someone who presents themselves as a mentor but somehow you always feel weaker after listening to them? If so, step back. Rethink, and most importantly, Stop letting their words shape your choices. In the end, a Stoic does not ask for permission to move forward. He decides, and he acts. The only way to escape the trap of a fake helper is to trust yourself more than you trust their words. Because real strength is built not by following the advice of others, but by learning to stand on your own. 7. The jealous rival, when someone can't stand your success. It starts with a smile, a forced congratulations, a handshake that lingers just a little too long. At first, they seem supportive. They act like they're happy for you. But if you pay close attention, the energy is off. Something is hidden beneath the surface, a discomfort, a tension. Then, the small things begin. A sarcastic remark, a subtle dig at your achievements, a backhanded compliment. You're lucky things worked out for you. You brush it off. Maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe you're reading too much into it. But you're not. Because there are people in this world who don't just dislike failure. They hate success, especially when it's yours. The jealous rival isn't a stranger. They aren't someone outside your world. They are close enough to see your victories up close. They see your progress, your rise, your momentum, and something inside them burns. Not because they think you don't deserve it, but because deep down, they know they didn't have the discipline, the patience, the resilience to achieve it themselves. Mark had known Richard for years. They started in the same place. They had the same ambitions, the same dreams. But Mark worked harder. He stayed disciplined. While Richard made excuses, Mark put in the effort. While Richard found reasons to delay, Mark moved forward. And then it happened. Mark got the promotion, the recognition, the life he had worked for. And Richard? He smiled, congratulated him, but something changed. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't obvious. But Mark started noticing small things. Richard wasn't as responsive anymore. When Mark spoke about his success, Richard always had something negative to say. That's great, but you know these things never last. Or enjoy it while you can, because people love to tear others down. And then it escalated. Mark started hearing rumors. Things he never said, actions he never took. People at work began treating him differently. The success that had once felt so rewarding now felt tainted. And at the center of it all, Richard. Spreading doubt, twisting perceptions, making sure that Mark's victories never felt like victories at all. This is what the jealous rival does. They don't attack directly. They don't challenge you openly. Instead, they work from the shadows, planting seeds of resentment, of doubt, of sabotage. They can't destroy you through force, so they try to poison the way others see you. A Stoic understands that success comes with enemies. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When men are envious of you, you have something they wish to possess." It's not your fault that they resent you, but it is your responsibility to protect yourself. How do you spot them before it's too late? Pay attention to their energy, not just their words. Words can lie. Smiles can be fake. But energy doesn't lie. Do they truly celebrate your wins, or do they always find a way to remind you of what could go wrong? Watch how they act when you fail. A real friend, a true supporter, will feel your losses as if they were their own. But a jealous rival? They will be too comfortable in your downfall. They might offer sympathy, but deep down they feel something else, relief. And most importantly, watch what happens when you try to grow. The jealous rival doesn't want to see you stop. They want to see you fall. They don't just resent your current success. They fear what happens when you reach even higher. So what do? First, accept that not everyone in your circle is rooting for you. Just because someone has been with you for years doesn't mean they want to see you win. Second, do not lower yourself to their level. A Stoic does not waste time on resentment. The best response to envy is to keep winning. And third, limit their access. The less they know, the less they can use against you. If you have a jealous rival in your life, understand this. Their resentment is not about you. It's about them, their failures, their disappointments, their inability to do what you did. And that is why you cannot let them shake you. Success will always reveal who truly supports you and who is only pretending to. Let them go, move forward, and never apologize for your ambition. 8. The character assassin, when they attack your honor. There is an attack that cuts deeper than any weapon, one that does not wound the body, but seeks to destroy something far more valuable. Your name, your reputation, your honor. Some enemies don't come for your job. They don't sabotage your projects. They don't try to compete with you directly. Instead, they target how the world sees you. They plant doubt, twist narratives, distort the truth until the person you once were, the person you worked hard to become, no longer exists in the eyes of others. At first, it happens in whispers. Someone repeats a story about you, slightly altered. Then another person adds a detail that wasn't there before. A private conversation you had is taken out of context, shaped into something unrecognizable. Your words are no longer your own. And before you realize what's happening, the damage has spread. By the time you hear the accusations, by the time you try to defend yourself, it's too late. Because this isn't about truth. This is about perception. And perception, once corrupted, is nearly impossible to restore. Ethan never thought his reputation could be destroyed. He was respected in his field, known for his integrity. He built his success through discipline, not shortcuts. But when a competitor couldn't defeat him through skill, they chose a different path. They started small. A rumor here, a suggestion there. They implied things about Ethan's business ethics without directly accusing him. It didn't take much. A single doubt planted in the minds of the right people was enough. Clients became hesitant. Investors started asking questions. And before Ethan even knew what was happening, he was defending himself against accusations that had no basis, but had already been believed. This is the work of the character assassin. They don't need to prove their claims, they don't need evidence, they just need enough people to believe the lie long enough for it to stick. Because once someone's reputation is damaged, even proving the truth doesn't erase the stain. A Stoic understands that honor is everything. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." But what happens when the world no longer believes in your goodness? The first mistake people make when faced with a character attack is assuming truth will defend itself. It won't, because people don't always seek truth. They seek a narrative that fits their beliefs. And if that narrative turns against you, no amount of explanations will fix it. The second mistake is reacting in anger. That is exactly what the character assassin wants. They want you to explode, to lash out, to become the very thing they've accused you of. Once you lose control, they win. So what can you do? First, stay silent when needed, but act with precision when necessary. A man's reputation is not built in a single day, and it is not destroyed in a single lie. Do not fight every accusation, fight the right one. If you try to defend yourself against every whisper, you will spend your life chasing ghosts. Instead, focus on the truth that matters. Second, build alliances before you need them. A man standing alone is easier to tear down, but a man surrounded by people who know his character, who have seen his integrity firsthand, is not so easily destroyed. Protect your reputation before it is ever under attack. Third, understand that perception can be influenced, but only if you stay in control. The Stoics did not waste time worrying about what the world thought of them. But they also did not allow others to shape their reality. They lived in such a way that even when they were slandered, those who mattered knew the truth. If you ever find yourself under attack, if someone tries to rewrite your story, to stain your name, to turn the world against you, remember this: the truth does not need to be shouted. It only needs to be lived. Do not let them control your emotions. Do not let them dictate your actions. And most importantly, do not let them define you. A character assassin can only win if you let them. So don't. 9. The final betrayal. When they strike at your lowest point, they wait, they watch. They don't need to act immediately because they know their moment will come. Some betrayals are sudden, unexpected, shocking, like a blade in the back. But the worst kind, the kind that destroys you completely, that one doesn't happen in an instant. It is slow, calculated, and delivered when you are at your weakest. This is the betrayal that comes when you are already broken. When you've lost something valuable, when you're struggling, when you have fewer options, less control. That's when they make their move, because they know you won't be able to fight back. Elliot had spent years building his life, a career he was proud of, a marriage he cherished, a strong foundation that made him feel untouchable. Then, within months, it all unraveled. His business collapsed after a failed deal. His marriage fell apart under the weight of stress and distance. He was exhausted, vulnerable, trying to salvage what was left. And that's when his closest friend, the one he had trusted for years, delivered the final blow. He hadn't seen it coming, but it had been there all along. The friend who had always helped manage his business was now the one taking over what remained. The friend who had supported him through his divorce was now seeing his ex-wife. Elliot wasn't just betrayed, he was erased. This is what a true enemy does. They don't need to fight you when you're strong. They don't challenge you when you have the resources to resist. Instead, they let life weaken you, and then they finish what's left. The final betrayal is not about chance. It is about strategy. A patient enemy will wait for the perfect moment. They will pretend to support you, offer sympathy, act like they're on your side. And when you lean on them, they pull away and let you fall. A Stoic understands that this is how the world works. People will take advantage of weakness. That is the nature of power. But what separates a wise man from a fool is how he prepares for it. First, never assume loyalty is permanent. A friend today is not always a friend tomorrow. Loyalty is proven over time, not assumed. Someone who benefits from your strength may not have the same devotion when you are weak. Second, watch for those who get closer when you are struggling. True friends are consistent. They stand by you in success and failure. But an opportunist appears when they sense vulnerability. They offer help, not out of kindness, but because they see an advantage in it. Third, protect yourself before you need protection. The best time to secure your foundation is when you are at your strongest. A Stoic does not wait until the storm comes to build shelter. He prepares in advance, so when betrayal arrives, he is not left exposed. Think about your own life. Who stands by you because of who you are, and who stands by you because of what you have? Who disappears when you no longer benefit them? Who lingers when you no longer have anything to offer? The worst betrayal does not come from an enemy. It comes from someone you once called a friend. And when they strike, it will not be with rage. It will be with silence, with inaction, with a door that quietly closes just when you need it to stay open. A weak man is destroyed by betrayal. A Stoic is strengthened by it. He learns, he grows, he does not waste time on anger. He moves forward, wiser, sharper, untouchable. Because once you've seen how betrayal works, it can never control you again. Betrayal is never loud. It rarely announces itself. It comes in the form of a friend, a mentor, a colleague, someone you once trusted. The most dangerous enemies are not those who declare war, but those who wait. Those who infiltrate your world, who learn your weaknesses, who position themselves carefully until the perfect moment to strike. But now you see the signs, the silent observer who studies you like prey, the whispered poison that destroys your reputation, the fake helper whose advice is a trap, the patient enemy who waits for years, the jealous rival who resents your success, the character assassin who stains your name, and the final betrayal, the one that comes when you are at your lowest. A Stoic understands that power is not in controlling others, but in controlling yourself. You cannot prevent betrayal, but you can prepare for it. You can choose who you let in, who you trust, and who you allow to shape your path. And most importantly, you can decide how you respond. So ask yourself, who in your life has revealed their true nature? Who has shown you that they are not truly on your side? And more importantly, how will you move forward now that you know? Share your story in the comments. Your experience may be the warning someone else needs. Because in the end, wisdom is the weapon that no enemy can take from you.